Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Slash Filmcast, the official podcast of SlashFilm.com. I'm David Chen, and with me are...
Devendra Hardware.
Jeff Kanata.
And joining us today, she's the associate editor of ScreenCrush.com, Britt Hayes. Welcome back to the Slash Filmcast. Britt, how are you doing today?
Great. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you on, and we asked you to join us today because all we're doing on today's episode of the podcast is reviewing Atomic Blonde, and you have a special standing to speak about Atomic Blonde, do you not? Because you are quoted on the poster in Times Square for Atomic Blonde. Is that right?
Yeah, a giant billboard above the M&M store has my quote. It's also in like all of the TV ads now and like everywhere. So
And
Every time I walk by it, Britt, I just point at it and shout out loud, I know that person.
Oh man, that's great.
Her quote is, "This movie is better than M&M's."
Yeah, that's the quote.
What is the quote, in fact?
What is it? The female 007 has arrived.
The female 007 has arrived. Thank you for that dramatic reading as well. Appreciate it. But yeah, it's great to have you on again, Britt, and thought it'd be great to talk with you about this movie. Before we get to that, a few things I just want to mention. You can find more episodes of this podcast at slashfilmcast.com. You can email us at slashfilmcast@gmail.com. Last week, when we recorded the podcast, I, David Chen, erroneously said that the first two Apes movies had won Oscars for visual effects. That is not true. We got an email from Kevin, who wrote into slashfilmcast@gmail.com. You need to check your facts. Weta did not win any visual effects Oscars for the Apes films to date. They have been nominated for the first two, but did not win. I know, because I was at both Weta Oscar parties, and the free drinks ended. The free drinks ended when we lost.
Listen, we need to talk about Kevin.
Yeah.
I have this image of everybody standing at the bar all excited, and the bartender literally like pouring a drink, and then they say, and the winner is ILM, and the guy's like, nope, we're done. Everybody go home. Lights on.
Yeah, so sorry about that. What I meant to say was nominated, not won Oscars, but they were nominated, so that is its own form of recognition. But anyway, so sorry about that. Sorry about that.
I love the idea that the party is contingent on the win. That is the best part of the email.
Yeah,
that just determines the budget, okay? But,
yeah.
It's a party for winners or a party for losers, you know?
Who was like the sober person left in charge of like waiting to shut down the free bar?
Terrible.
It's like the designated survivor.
Terrible.
It's the same guy. It's the same guy that at the Super Bowl like has the hats of both teams, you know, and decides which team's hats are going to be flooded on the, and then just has to dispose of all the losing team's hats. Yeah,
terrible job. In any case, that's all I wanted to mention, guys. Why don't we get to our review of Atomic Blonde? I'll put the trailer in here. Before we continue, though, Jeff, do you mind doing the pre-roll for the HelloFresh?
I did it yesterday and it was so good. I don't know why you would want me to do it now.
I just ask you to do it so I don't, because sometimes I forget to put it in. So,
right.
Yeah.
You can just go from yesterday's. It's cool. I'll do it. Ready? You gonna count me down, or can I just go?
I'm already rolling, so just go whenever.
Okay. This episode of the Slash Filmcast is brought to you by HelloFresh. Please visit HelloFresh.com and use the promo code FilmCast30 to save $30 off your first week of deliveries when you subscribe. That's FilmCast30 to save $30 from HelloFresh.com.
See, Jeff, it's a good thing I made you do it again, or else we wouldn't have gotten that performance out of you.
I had to mute my microphone because I was laughing. The way he just like turned it on was so good.
Yeah,
Jeff is good.
Jeff is a professional, Britt.
That's, I got a degree in make believe. If you guys could tell or not, but I do.
Here we go. Here it comes. That was from the trailer of Atomic Blonde, the newest film by David Leitch. I'm going to read the plot summary from IMDb. An undercover MI6 agent is sent to Berlin during the Cold War to investigate the murder of a fellow agent and recover a missing list of double agents. This movie stars Charlize Theron, James McAvoy, John Goodman, and Toby Jones. And Britt Hayes, as we discussed, you are quoted as saying, "This is the female 007 has arrived." Here's the thing, though. I was watching the trailer for Kingsman 2 the other day in the theater, and it reminded me of how much better other films have been at being spy films than actually 007. Man from U.N.C.L.E., Kingsman, those are both better films than Spectre. And I would argue Atomic Blonde is better than Spectre. So I guess my question for you is, if Atomic Blonde is like the 007 has arrived, is that a good thing? Like, how did you mean that? Because maybe being the female 007 isn't a good thing these days.
It was a good thing because, I mean, it's one of those arguments that's sort of come up, in the last few years, along with like, we need a female Doctor Who. Well, hey, now we have a female Doctor. One of the things you hear is like, why can't we have a female Bond? Or like, why can't we have a black Bond? Why does it always have to be some like angular British white dude? And this movie basically gives you, like an 80s set Lady Bond. I mean,
she's still angular. Let's be honest. She's still very angular.
Definitely angular and so tall. I saw her in person at South by. We passed each other. Like, she was going to the bathroom as I was leaving. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
I don't actually believe that story.
I don't think Charlize Theron goes to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Agreed.
I'm sure she wasn't actually going to use the toilet. She was probably just like going to check her perfect skin. I don't know. I mean,
like saying that she's going to the bathroom implies that she's a human, which I think is not correct after seeing this movie. But yeah,
No,
so what did you like about this movie, Britt?
I liked so much of it. I mean, I know people complain. Some of the complaints I've heard are like, the needle drops are a little too overbearing, but I love them. I mean, like,
yeah,
it's no different than a lot of movies I see like this with dudes in them. Like, what gives? Like, I don't know. I'm not accusing anyone of nitpicking this movie because it has a woman in it. I'm sure some people are, but not everyone. The action is so great. It's so awesome to see her just doing this practical action stuff. That hallway fight, every fight is so incredible. And you can tell that she went to the Leitch and Stahelski school because of the way she holds her gun properly. And it feels really grounded in that way. It's like, I'm really watching this person actually kick all these dudes' butts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she really convincingly pulls it off as an action star. Let me ask you, Jeff Kanata, your thoughts on this movie, Atomic Blonde.
I am probably going to be the one that nitpicks it.
Come on, Jeff. Come on.
Damn it, Jeff.
I know, but not because it has a female lead. I went into this movie really excited for it and really, really wanting to love it. And for like the first, I don't know, third of the movie, maybe half the movie, I was like, ooh, I am not digging this. It felt like she was kind of sleepwalking through it, and it felt muddled, and the whole and I did get bugged by some of the 80s Pandora station that was on during the movie. It just felt really paint by numbers and then the action sequence happens. The action sequence. So
Jeff's referring to the fact that there is one action sequence in this movie everyone's going to be talking about. This is one of those sequences that when people make lists of the best action scenes of the 2010s, this will be on that list.
It will be on the list.
It is legendary.
It completely turns the movie around, or it did for me at least. And it is a tour de force. It kind of comes at you without even announcing itself. It just starts, and then you're swept up in it, and it's still going, and it's still going, and it's still going. And it is this centerpiece that just, for me, catapulted the movie into a completely new place. And even after that, the movie feels like it finally has a pulse and hits its stride. And I really wasn't digging the movie until that moment, and I felt like she was really just – the whole thing felt comatose up until that moment. Even the action sequences at the beginning just felt really bland. And I'm the first guy, especially with Bond movies and lots of action movies, I think listeners to the show know, I often criticize these kinds of films for having the best thing be the first 10 minutes and then not being able to live up to that. this movie certainly doesn't do that, and I guess I should applaud it that its biggest delights are much farther into the movie, and I think that's a good thing. Actually, I think work up to the crescendo, and what a crescendo it is. I mean, we can talk in spoilers more about that, and I think we will. But for me, if I had just watched that, I don't know, 10-minute, 15-minute long sequence, I would have been happy. I didn't even need the movie around it. It is so incredible, and it goes so many places, and it's so clearly her. And I was dazzled by the technical mastery of how you even stage it and what it took. And I could find some masked cuts, but
yeah,
it's an amazing sequence. And for me, the whole movie was that. And after that, I was much more engaged, and I thought the movie picked up speed. And then there's a couple of cool action moments that even happen after that. And I was much more, and I think even the sort of revelations of the story are sort of more rapid fire after that. But so much of it, I think, could have been cut down leading into it. I didn't feel like the movie found its stride until that moment. And so I didn't love it. I wasn't drawn into the relationships. I found everybody is just like really, I don't know. I wasn't drawn into any of the relationships until after that. And because of how powerful that action vocabulary is, now I'm invested in these characters, and I feel like there's real big stakes. And before that, I wasn't. So I didn't think it was a perfect movie, but it is a movie that ended up being extremely entertaining for me, but uneven at best.
All right.
I really wish you could see my face right now. It's like, you know the face Robert De Niro does when he's not happy?
I'm sorry.
Ben Stiller. It's like,
But I don't know. The soundtrack alone, I totally understand if you dig it. There's songs that I love and I grew up with, but like, hey, we're in Berlin. What's the on the nose song that we could play? Oh, 99 Luftballons. Okay, yeah, obviously that's going to be played. We're in London. What are you going to play from the 80s? Oh, London Calling. Okay, I guess that's the obvious choice here. I just wish there'd been a little bit more creativity there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. They do use a Susie and the Banshees track, though, right?
ooh.
I'm not sure about that.
I don't know.
I feel like
you would know
that's
more than us.
accurate.
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty accurate because I remember being incredibly excited because you never hear Susie and the Banshee in movies. You hear it in like Marie Antoinette and Batman Returns. Batman Returns of all things. But it's like, whoa, that's a cool song choice. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone will probably actually me on Twitter at some point.
Well, you're probably right.
Cities and Dust was in the movie.
Haha! I knew it.
So
there's like
therefore, Jeff,
two Bowies.
Therefore, Jeff, your argument isn't valid.
I guess maybe so, but for me, it felt like when I listened to the '80s Pandora station, it's like, oh, it's not deep cuts. It is the most obvious. Like, what is the '80s song?
It's also because everyone is doing this now too, right? I'm thinking of like Conjuring 2. When we move to London, London Calling, I believe, starts playing. So it's like everyone is doing this now.
There is something very Suicide Squad-esque about the soundtrack to this movie. But
how dare you?
In the sense that the soundtrack choices are very obvious. But here's, to its credit, I think the movie actually makes the 80s feel desirable in some way, which is a very difficult thing to do.
Mm-hmm. There's a cool.
It's like awesome. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't
like
know.
the 80s.
I don't know if I agree with you on that, Jeff. But Devendra Hardawar, what were your thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, I love this movie. It was in so many ways. Like, I can understand why you're probably a little frustrated with how it starts, Jeff. Like, it's there's mood setting there. There's, it takes its time, similar to John Wick 1. And honestly, that's something I kind of missed from John Wick 2. Like, this movie really grounds you in this character and kind of what she's going through. And we just kind of get a sense of her before the action really kicks off. And then, when the action kicks off, it's incredible. And this is the, new style of action I want to see more of. Compared to, I enjoyed Kingsman, but I keep bringing up how floaty and how, cartoony everything always feels in Kingsman. And I'm looking forward to the sequel, but even just looking at that trailer and people are flipping guns around like Wanted, and they're flipping over tables and shooting upside down, and I just want somebody to just like punch somebody in the face like they would, like in real life. That's all I want to see.
Yeah,
really.
The stunt coordinator Sam Hargrave did a very cool stunt breakdown of one of the middle action sequences, the one where she uses a hose. And it's like this is an extraordinary YouTube video that Wired Magazine did. It's a 12-minute video of him just talking through exactly how they did pretty much every single stunt in that scene. And
I would say wait until after you see the movie.
Yeah, wait until after you see the movie, because you want to see that scene in its native environment. But it is totally fascinating, and a lot of the stuff is practical. Like, they throw someone through a table, and they have charges in the table glass that detonate to make the glass explode. And make it look more spectacular. Because otherwise, he's saying most like coffee table glass is designed to not shatter into 1,000 pieces, and you need to hit it really hard. So and you can see in the movie like the puff of smoke that goes up from the table when they detonate the charges. Like they do a lot of things practically in this film, and it shows. You can feel it. It looks amazing. So,
but basically, for me, this movie kind of works on every level. I think the action is fantastic. It's inventive. It feels grounded. People feel like they get hurt, especially in that extra long fight scene where, Charlize Theron's character, she is just getting beaten down, like completely beaten down. And I love seeing that veneer of humanity and vulnerability in my action stars while they're also super people. So that all of that is great.
People actually feel like they absorb damage during the fight scenes, right? It's not just
definitely there's weight
not
to
just
it.
Superhuman, exactly.
It's not just an elderly British man shooting people and heads exploding. It's very different than that. And it's just the style of it. This movie looks astounding. It just has a veneer of cool and swagger that so many movies wish they had. Like this movie just announces itself, and it's just cool on its own. I think there are some plot gaps, there are some narrative holes or something, especially as you get towards some of the later twists, which I don't think work out logically. But at that point, I really didn't care. I loved everything about where this movie was going. This movie worked for me better than John Wick 2. And my issue, as much as I love John Wick 2, a lot of that movie felt like, why are we doing this again? Because the house? Because it didn't feel like we had enough motivation and character reasons for a lot of the action happening. So I was less involved in John Wick 2 as much as I love that movie. This one is the sort of successor I want. This is giving me real emotional stakes. This is giving me a reason to care about why these things are happening. And just kind of loved all of it. And it's also really nice to have a great spy movie where I don't have to roll my eyes over the inherent misogyny of so much of it too. So that's awesome to see.
What I really love, one of the things I really love, I mean, besides Devinder just pointed out how cool it looks, which is another thing I was going to bring up, is just this movie is just cool. Like it just is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the
looks
things,
gorgeous. The movie, just the composition, the color grading, the lighting.
There's a nice Michael Mann blue shade just going through all of it. It's so nice.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing for me watching this was I'm comparing her to Bond and saying she's the female Bond, but really she's her own character. I mean, we were just introduced to a new spy. One day I hope dudes are like, when are we going to get a male Lorraine Broughton? But that's the thing is she feels genderless though too. There are moments where she's vulnerable and yet somehow masculine, seeing her in these ice baths, which is one of the most striking things visually in the film is this simple moment of her taking an ice bath.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that she gets out of the tub and sits on the edge and has this drink, she pours herself some Stoli, and it's there's something really masculine about that. I could see Daniel Craig doing that in a better Bond movie, but you know what I mean?
It doesn't feel sexualized to me.
No,
she's doing that.
Not at all.
In any other movie where Charlize Theron is getting out of a bathtub completely naked, it might feel sexualized, but not in this movie. Probably because she's trying to reduce the inflammation from all of her bruises. But
there's plenty of stuff that's sexualized in this movie, though.
For sure.
But I don't have a problem with that stuff either. And I think that's part of my genderless argument is imagine a dude in that role And how many guys would like love the crap out of this movie of him like hooking up with, you know,
Sophia
this
Boutella.
girl on his mission. Yeah, the girl on the mission, and he's like hooking up with her, and like she's just literally doing what men in every spy movie do. But because it's like woman on woman, one of the complaints I've heard is like, you know, oh God, it's like it's you know, kind of like misogynist, it's kind of icky, like, you know, it's just a little too much, and you know, tacky, there's too much male gaze. But I don't feel that way. I just kept imagining like, okay, if this were a guy, there would be none of those complaints. This is a woman doing what a male does, and she's, I mean, like, she has a sex life. Like, there's nothing like, don't sex shame Charlize Theron ever, especially in my presence.
I feel like this is a running theme with Brit being on the Slash Filmcast is there's a movie, like, you know, last time it was Neon Demon, where a lot of people complain about male gaze, and Britt Hayes is here to say, don't worry about it, at least in this case. I mean, Charlize Theron is a producer on this film, so I assume that she had sign-off over how she appeared in the movie. So, you know, whatever is there, it's like her intention that we see it in this way. And I didn't really, you know, I didn't feel it was super exploitative, at least insofar as like in a way that she didn't want it to be. I feel like however exploitative it was probably what she wanted, you know?
Yeah, for a reason too. Like, I think specifically, like, I don't want to dance around and say like those sex scenes weren't like, they weren't very hot, guys. They really worked on multiple levels. I think in many ways too, they tell us about her character. Like, in some ways, it almost feels like we're starting not to talk about how sex scenes work in movies and how they can actually tell us more about characters and develop things, and not just be something that we can criticize. Like, it does feel like we've come to like a weird, almost puritanical view.
Yeah, I guess because there's just not that many sex scenes in movies these days.
Yeah,
right? Like it's rare to see sex scenes in movies. So yeah, good point, Devindra. But let me just share a few thoughts, and then we can dive into spoilers on this movie. I really liked it. I think like the three things that I thought were strong. Number one, the action's incredible. A lot of it's practical. David Leitch is I think he used to be a stunt coordinator, if I'm not mistaken. And so, you know, he knows how to film action. He often like lets things play out in long takes, wide shots, exactly what we want to see from action movies. He lets those stunt people sell those hits, and I think overall does a great job with that. And Charlize Theron, of course, also brings a great physicality to this role. There's no doubt in my mind that she performed many of those stunts. Second thing is, as you already mentioned, the movie's beautiful, like just absolutely gorgeous. Every shot, I want to frame it. It just feels really meticulously constructed as a period piece. And so I really love the look of it. And finally, Charlize Theron looks amazing in this movie. And I'm not just talking about the time when she's, you know, naked or scantily clad. I mean, just her outfits are fabulous in this film.
Yeah.
And it just she's always meticulously dressed, and I thought she looked great, and I really love her in this movie. All that said, I think the plot is absolutely nonsensical. Like, I just think whether it actually makes sense in the end, I don't even think it matters that much, because the way it's told is a jumbled mess, in my opinion. And so I think, like, plot-wise, not very strong. And we can talk more in spoilers about whether or not it actually succeeds at communicating what it's trying to. But overall, yeah, I like the movie. I'd recommend it. It's definitely worth watching in a theater, and it got some really good audience reaction when I saw it yesterday. So,
and what a great supporting cast too, right? Like James McAvoy, just perfect, smarmy, slimy James McAvoy role. John Goodman, like, just showing up. I love her superiors and how she has to, like, basically detail the level of this investigation, what she had to go through, their expressions through all this. Toby Jones, that's just kind of a great thing all around.
Yeah, I liked the framing. It's a kind of standard spy movie framing. I just wish the plot, I wish the logic of, like, going from point A to point B was a little bit more clearly spelled out, and especially when you have a bunch of twists, you know, like this movie does. I feel like you really needed a more coherent storyline than I think we got, unfortunately. So, but you guys, you know, one of my favorite aspects of this movie is there was that fight scene that happened, like, in a kitchen, and there's a scene where she throws a pot at a dude's head.
How dare you? How dare you?
You know what else happens with pots?
How dare you,
cook
David?
food with them.
How dare you?
Oh no.
You want to be a super spy? Super spy's got skills. You know, whether you're a male super spy or female super spy, you got to have them skills. You got to know about wines. You got to know about guns. You got to know how to drive fast, and you got to know how to cook a meal. Right, David?
That's correct.
Right, David. When the pot comes flying at your head, you have to have known how to use that in all its incarnations.
That's right.
As a weapon, as a way to prepare a sensibly priced meal that also is healthy and uses fresh ingredients.
I'm loving everything you're saying right now.
Our sponsor is going to help you out with that. Our sponsor is HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a farm-to-box company, but also a couch-to-kitchen company, because the first thing you need to do to be a super spy is get off that couch and learn you some skills. I'm so happy that I have started using farm-to-box and a couch-to-kitchen methodology in my own life, because I have gotten those skills. If you had told me 5 years ago that I would be able to cook the meal that I cooked tonight for my wife, I would have been shocked at that. I would have been, what magical superpower did I get? It turns out that all you have to do is practice. And it's so easy to practice with HelloFresh, because they're going to give you great meals in a box, all just kind of compartmentalized in a box. I love the fact that when I open my HelloFresh box, it's got like smaller boxes inside with all the ingredients you need for that recipe that you can do. And the recipes only take like 30 minutes. They require minimal equipment. It's super easy, but because now I'm like chopping my own stuff, zesting my own things, I understand how to do that stuff, and I'm actually getting good at it. It's amazing. I'm leveling up. I'm becoming a super spy. Next, guys, we just need to be sponsored by some sort of stunt driving service. Yeah. HelloFresh, here's the things you need to know. Every week, they create delicious recipes with step-by-step instructions that even someone as ineffectual as me can follow and create good meals. So whether you're a novice or a seasoned cook, you can cook awesome meals. And the ingredients that they give you are the freshest, measured to the exact quantities you need, so you don't have leftovers in the fridge that are going to spoil. You don't have extra bits of things that you don't know what to do with. No food waste. Plus, HelloFresh employs 2 full-time registered dietitians on staff that review every recipe to ensure that it is nutritionally balanced. They deliver the food to your doorstep, always free shipping, with a recyclable insulated box, free shipping to your door. And it turns out you're going to be spending less than $10 a meal. It's pretty amazing. And now HelloFresh is offering light spring meals and has just introduced breakfast options. What? Did somebody say pancakes? Meow, 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 meow.
Was that an air horn that you just did?
That's an air horn.
Yeah. That's the get hyped, universal sign for get hyped, right?
Nice.
So what are you going to do? You're going to go to HelloFresh.com and use the promo code FilmCast30 that gives you $30 off your first week of HelloFresh. And you can try it out yourself. $30 off your first week. Pretty cool stuff. You'll eat really great food, and you'll get some skills. And it honestly has improved my life beyond measure. I can't even tell you how much I love this fact that I can actually cook for my wife. It's amazing. She commented tonight, actually, when I cooked for her. She's like, "It's so nice that you can cook and I can take care of the baby." And I agree.
I have you fooled, right?
Yeah, right. I'm doing the easy thing. It's step-by-step instructions. It's easy. HelloFresh.com, promo code FilmCast30.
I'm just glad we're talking about food and spy movies, by the way, guys, because Kale, I'm on to you. You're the mole. I know. You're just always trying to be something else, man. Always trying to.
You cannot trust Kale.
Oh, Kale has all the codes.
Oh, no. I have a request for the next HelloFresh ad that one of you has to do.
Yeah.
Make it Twin Peaks themed, and somebody say hello like Dougie. Like, hello!
Well, unfortunately, Jeff does not get that joke because he doesn't watch Twin Peaks. But
yeah, Devindra or David will have to do the
Jeff,
ad that
you're
week.
such a disappointment to me.
I know. Every time you're on, I am. Every single time you're
that's
on,
true.
I am a
Single
massive
time.
disappointment.
Every single time.
Yeah.
All right, let's get
One of these days we're going to sync up on our thoughts, and then we'll go to the M&M store in Times Square together, and it'll be amazing. And we'll just be the happiest friends.
All right.
The first Eminem James Bond has arrived.
It's the green one.
Let's get the spoilers for Atomic Blonde starting right now. All right, guys. So I have some questions about what's going on at the end of this movie.
I have many questions.
I think, first of all, that it's pretty clear she's a triple agent, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
So
For what reason? I don't know, but yeah.
So
I love the ultimate reveal is that Charlize Theron has an American accent in this
yeah, it was
movie.
like, they literally explained how bad her British accent is in the context of the movie. That's pretty brilliant.
Lucky for you, her whole face is British, though, guys. That's an Arrested Development reference. Anyway, so she's a triple agent, and my question is she Satchel? That's my question. So is she like Satchel, the double agent that they were trying to find?
I think so, but
because
I thought that what's his bucket was Satchel.
James McAvoy.
Yeah, but she pretended to be Satchel to get and kill all them Russians.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, whose side was James McAvoy a good guy? Is my question.
No,
he was very bad. Well, he started out as a good guy, but then he got seduced into the Berlin life, and
it looks pretty sweet, by the way. Yeah. Just like hanging out and raves and like your own private
right.
Group
so then he exposed like she was a like as you said, the Germans, right, thought that she was working with them, right, as evidenced by that scene when she's in the hotel room, but then she wasn't, and apparently James McAvoy had exposed her to them, right? And that's why she has to kill everyone.
But also the Brits thought she was one of theirs,
right?
But she never was. I don't understand. Like, I know, Devindra, you were saying that you really dug the storytelling device of her being in there explaining the thing to them, and yeah, there's some fun stuff about that. But in a narrative standpoint, I have no idea why she needed to do that at all. Like, if you're just gonna go back to America and be an American agent, like, don't even bother telling anybody about what happened.
It seemed like a debriefing to confirm that she's working for MI6, and they're like, "What the hell happened here?
Yeah,
you blew up all of Berlin." Yeah,
it's just to maintain her cover.
Standard operating procedure when you are a spy. Maybe you've got to like answer to superiors and tell them like, "Okay, so I did this and I did this."
But they weren't her actual superiors; they were fake superiors, and her real superiors.
But they don't know that.
Yeah, John Goodman was her actual superior too, right?
So I guess the idea is that she's going to keep them thinking
she's still a British double agent for America, basically. Or what? She's an American agent, but she's a double.
Look,
she's
an agent. She's an agent for herself. She's looking out for number one. And I would not be surprised if, like, 10 Atomic Blondes from now, she's just, like, ruling over Earth the way Charlize Theron should be.
10 Atomic Blondes from now, she's actually Imperio Furiosa.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, I actually would be excited for an Atomic Blonde 2. Do you feel the same way? Like, I just hope they make a better story next time. I guess... I've talked to the
It'll be awesome. It'll be in the 90s, and she'll be all grunge, and it'll be like
oh
that.
My God. This is like my dream movie. She's like, Charlize Theron is a spy wearing flannel and Doc Martens and listening to like Mazzy Star while she's beating the crap out of every dude.
She'd be too apathetic to do anything. I'm not sure that would work.
She's pretty apathetic in this movie. I gotta say, I said she was kind of sleepwalking through most of this movie. Other than the action stuff, which is very impressive and amazing that she actually did most of it herself, which is incredible. But I think most of them, I said sleepwalking, but it's really more like sleep smoking or smoke walking. There's a lot of smoking as a placeholder for acting, both from her and from James McAvoy.
And then she's also wearing that mask, so it's like she's smoking. Oh no, I'm so sorry.
We're not on the 90s episode yet.
That's pretty bad.
But no, to me, like, that was the sense of style thing, right? That was how in a Michael Mann film, somebody will just not be doing anything for a very long time, and you find that inherently interesting, and you're either with it or you're not. But I was certainly with it.
Yeah, I thought it was her demeanor, her style was really good, very intoxicating. So agree with you guys on all of that stuff. I kind of just wish. I've talked with several people whose job it is full time to review movies, and none of them have been able to successfully explain to me the plot of this movie.
Okay. You know what? When I walked out of this at South by, that was a complaint I also heard from other critics, which is like, it's too convoluted. And I'm like, no more so than a dumb James Bond movie. I mean, those movies are ridiculously convoluted.
Well, we're harsh on those too, to be fair. I mean, we kicked the shit out of Skyfall.
Yeah, Spectre, I think.
Or Spectre,
but I wish...
Don't you dare.
I guess I wish, it has a lot of Bourne elements, this movie does, as evidenced by that scene when she grabs a hose and uses it to not only maim everyone that's around her, but then uses the hose to escape. I mean, that's
Dave,
very Bourne-esque. What?
You very well know that reference goes far, far before the Bourne.
Die Hard, baby.
Die Hard, baby. Hard Boiled, baby. What are you talking about?
Okay.
What do I even know you right now?
I'm talking. I'm talking about this idea of like using a standard item in the room.
Yes.
As a fighting implement.
I also think it was a poor choice to leap off the balcony with that thing only tied to someone else's neck, because all that guy has to do is not hit something on his way down, and you're fucked.
Man, she thought it out. She knows. She knew.
No, I actually thought it was very smart, because if she tied it to like an object, it would have stopped her too abruptly, I think. But anyway,
got to have that human cushion.
That's right. You got to have that human cushion of Anyway, in any case. So I thought that was like my favorite scene in the movie, other than the big massive fight scene, was the hose scene. Really well done. I
really liked the very, very end Russian massacre with the feathers. I thought that in slow motion. I thought that was incredibly exquisite.
Here's the only thing I didn't like about that scene was because I've seen so many of these movies and I know how they're made. I could see the stunt people anticipating the shots.
Yep, they had to.
Yeah,
because it's in slow mo. Because if there's any time differential between when she pulls the trigger and when they move, you'll see it accentuated because it's in slow mo.
Exactly. So it's better to be like early than late, I guess, in that situation. Yeah. But I could still tell. Oh, I don't think she's actually shooting those guys. I think they're just pretending to get.
What? Movie magic.
Man. The illusion is broken.
The illusion was completely shattered.
But I thought that scene was rad, man.
Yeah,
I thought
that was great.
I mean, other than the fact that like, why did she even put herself in that situation? I don't know. But
what I love is that every action scene. There's about 4 action scenes in this movie, right? Every action scene is really different from the last one, right? Like they're in a different setting. The pacing is different. The implements she uses are different. So I really like the variety of action in the film, and that's
most definitely.
It's something that's rare to see in action movies today. There's a lot of repetition these days. So, any other thoughts on the movie that we want to?
We got to talk about the big action sequence.
Right.
It's pretty big. How big is it, guys?
It's incredible. I mean, that one take that keeps going, and those guys falling down the stairs, and her falling down the stairs, and it not ending. And dude, I laughed out loud when we've seen this. It's been like 4 minutes of the coolest shit ever, and then she's kind of finished with those guys, and then our little sad little man who she's trying to rescue is like, 2 more. There's 2 more around the corner.
Yeah.
It was so awesome.
Yeah, my favorite part of that scene, actually, this is weird, is she gets in an elevator, and the camera stays on her as she goes up the elevator, and then she goes out of the elevator. And I don't know why, but I really appreciated that, because it shows you that she was actually in an elevator, or either she was actually in an elevator, or they did some crazy green screen stuff at the beginning of that scene, because a lot of people just assume that they shoot scenes on location, but that's not always the case. It could be it could be a set or something like that, but the fact that she got in an elevator and then went up a bunch of floors and it was all one shot made it it added to the realism that she was in an actual place in reality for me. So anyway, that's a completely random favorite part of the scene.
Well, every time that they transitioned from indoor to outdoor, the screen goes completely
black,
dark.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was an edit point, but
Totally.
it doesn't matter. It's still super cool.
It's still amazing. Yeah. It was very like Alfred Hitchcock Rope, like, in terms of like, the camera just like dive bombed into her back for a split second. But yeah, it's still an incredible scene. And like we said earlier, you feel the progression of the toll that these people are taking on each other.
And there's a period there where they're both just exhausted and they've thrown everything at each other, and that's not even like midway through the scene. That's like a third of the way through what you're about to see, and then getting into the car, and then the dude shows back up in front of the car, and it's so cool, man.
It's beautiful.
It's so cool.
Didn't she break like 4 teeth while filming this? I can't remember. I know hers.
Oh, really?
Like, she had to have dental surgery because of this movie, because like that's how hardcore she was.
And it only made her more beautiful.
I know. It's ridiculous. What can you do? I just kind of like, I have to go back to this convoluted point because I don't really, it kind of like bothers me. I don't know. I mean, I had no problems understanding the plot. I had even had a couple drinks at South by when I was watching this, and I was like,
"This is the key."
Maybe that's it. You guys got to loosen your minds. They're too tight. You got to let it go. But yeah, it's I had no problem understanding it. Honestly, I feel like the editing is all really great and helps like keep the plot clear. Unlike other films like Dunkirk. In which the editing ceases to make sense, like in the third act, if you can call it that. And then people complain about that being convoluted, and I'm like, well, I mean, that's just weird editing. But this, I don't know. I got it.
I wonder if it's just all the twists and turns, because it just feels like there's like a triple level twist happening at a certain point. And I think if you think about like, oh, she's working for the Americans this whole time, like how does that map to what she was doing for MI6? Like, I think it raises a lot of other questions, but I also think you're right, Britt, that it didn't seem super convoluted to me. If anything, it just seemed a little like some of the plot elements I just didn't care about too much, or it was a little nonsensical. But even then, like it didn't matter much to me. Like, the experience went far beyond what they were doing plot wise.
Also, wasn't the whole point that they didn't want that list that was in that dude's head to get out into the open? Right? Because if it did, it would expose all the... So, like, why does she care about keeping that dude alive? Like, that was the only thing I was confused about.
Well, yeah.
Theoretically, if he dies, like, isn't her job easier now? Like, you know? So, it just wasn't super clear to me.
No, you're right. And there's some reference made to the fact that, like, James McAvoy did read the list, and on the list is some stuff about her that is...
Well, I think it probably reveals that she's a triple agent, is my guess.
Right. Yeah. But you're right. Then that would mean that the dude dying would be a good thing for her.
Right. Even though she spends that 10-minute action scene defending him.
Also, how much of an unreliable narrator is she really? Like, first of all, why would she tell them the truth? And second of all, is she telling them the truth? Because there's a couple of points where what we see and what she says are different, but I don't even know if we're supposed to think, is any of this embellished? Is some of it not accurate? I don't know.
I think when we're seeing the flashbacks, I think that's definitely the truth. But it's clear that when she's recounting the story, some of that is not being told to the people in the room.
Right.
So,
but why would she even tell them any of it? Like, why does she tell them the truth at all?
Because she needs them to believe her. And in order, I don't know if you are familiar with how to lie, but
I'm terrible at it, that's for sure.
Okay, well that explains everything then. See, like, this doesn't make sense to you because you're not a liar, but like not to say anything about myself. I'm just saying that even if you have experience with like a sociopath or like a pathological type, like people need to use the truth to build the lie. Like, you have to, like, it's like that game, like, two truths and a lie or whatever. Like, that's kind of basically what she's playing. It's like, okay, well, if I give them like this much, then it's like very believable, and like they could look into it and it would be backed up, and then I throw in a spicy little lie, and then they buy that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like any good spy, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Lessons
I
in
defer
lying
to
from
your
Brit Hayes.
lying prowess.
Hmm.
We'll
Yes.
just let that sit there.
I'm gonna start my own podcast that's all about how to lie.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's basically it. It's a movie we all enjoyed. It's a movie you should check out. I mean, how do we feel like it fits into the summer? You know, is it a movie that like does this feel like escapist fare to you? I feel like,
most definitely.
Certainly
I feel
more
like-
than Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that's one bummer. You know, you were talking about how Brit the plot is very similar to any other spy film. I would argue that like the Bourne movies are really, really simplistic in their plot. Like,
Yes.
like
Just
way more
told
simplistic.
very,
than-
very
it's just Bourne's trying to get from point A to point B. People try to kill him many, many times along the way. That's the plot of every single Bourne film. And I kind of wish that this movie was that simple. I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But
it's not John Wick, though, is the thing. Like, John Wick, I think, has very simple plots, and it should, you know. But, like, this is a spy movie. And honestly, I'm going to be real with you guys. I have not seen a Bourne movie. More like bored,
Fritz.
because if you've seen Matt Damon's face, come on, you guys.
wow.
You do,
hard.
well, it does get punched many times.
Pretty
it
harsh.
gets punched many, many times. So,
I mean, that's
you
a
know.
selling point, really.
That's a
but
plus.
I don't know. It just they never really interested me.
Yeah, all right, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right,
Poor
guys.
Matt Damon's face.
All right, guys.
That's how we're leaving it, with just Matt
No,
just
no,
throwing
no, no.
shade at Damon.
Brit Hayes,
Well, good
Matt
night, everybody.
bring it home for us. Bring it home for us. Closing
Uh,
thoughts
I-
on Atomic Blonde.
It's a really cool, really entertaining, kick-ass experience. And if you think it's convoluted, I'm really sorry. But I also wanted to mention too, before we close out, is that something we were talking about before we started recording was if you go to the website iamatomic.com, you can upload a photo and they'll make you like a little GIF. It's like real cute. It says Atomic and it's all neon. But every time you do that, they donate $1 to the It Gets Better project. And what better day than today
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
support
so
something like
for those who don't know, like we're actually recording this significantly before it's going to be released. And this morning, Donald Trump tweeted that transgender people would not be allowed in the military. So
Hey, yeah, that kind of flies in the face of your whole lie theory, where lies are based on an element of truth. Anyway,
well, yeah, and apparently, like the people didn't even know that he was going to do that.
right.
They just, yeah,
Like the people in the Pentagon who made effects.
yeah. So anyway, by the time you're listening to this, actually, I would not be surprised if something changed about it.
Oh, I'm sure it's yeah.
Like the news.
I'm
could
sure
be
by the
completely
time we
different.
finish recording this, it'll be changed.
All that being said, iamatomic.com. Check it out. It's for a good.
Yeah,
cause.
and the It Gets Better project is definitely worth your support and donation. It's a really laudable cause, and it's cool that they are doing a promotion like that. I think it's really awesome.
All right,
Yeah.
guys. Stay tuned to hear what we'll be reviewing next week. Find more episodes of this podcast at /filmcast.com. Email us at /filmcast@gmail.com. In the meantime, Brit Hayes, where can people find more of your work on the internet this week?
You can find me at screencrush.com. And you can find me on Twitter at Miss Brit Hayes.
All right, Jeff Canada, how about you?
I have several other shows for you. If you're into video games, I have a daily video game show called Newest, Latest, Best, which you can find on iTunes or Google Play, or at anchor.fm/NLB. I also have a weekly video game show, a long-form show called DLC that you can find at 5by5.tv/DLC. And I have a short comedy show all about science. It's called We Have Concerns. You can find that at wehaveconcerns.com.
How about you, Devindra?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Devindra, and I write about tech at Engadget.com.
Find me at davechen.net. Find me on Twitter at davechensky. Next week, guys, you know, we haven't talked about this. We usually talk about what we're going to be reviewing next week. But I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Detroit.
Oh,
Detroit?
Oh, boy. Yeah.
okay.
I mean, the only other alternative is the Dark Tower. I mean, let's just talk about this real quick, right?
Oh, boy,
Jeff
yeah.
Canada, you have said you don't even want to see the Dark Tower, right?
Oh, my
Like,
God.
Kind of don't, but I will. I'm not trying to avoid it.
Yeah.
but I kind of don't.
That's the second time I've heard that today. But the other person who told me that actually loves the books, so that was kind of shocking.
That's why I don't want to see it either.
As the official Screen Crush Stephen King expert, I'm already really sad about this movie.
Oh man,
right? It's going to be bad.
I've heard from 2 people who have seen it already, both who work in the theater industry, that it is no good.
Oh.
Yeah, this is looking to be a very... Here, I'm going to read from The Ankler, which is a newsletter I love reading. Screening reports continue to be beyond dire. Tracking is holding up okay if a King Arthur-like opening in the low 20s sounds good to you. Could be worse these days. They definitely have spent some money to build up awareness levels, and we'll see what that gets them. But from whither came this debacle? Could it be that Rothman's decree that this universe-launching movie should be made for $65 million, an amount which typically would barely cover the FX budget on a film of this scope, in the hands of a director who had never worked on studio epics before, and an extremely tortured script process? Anyway,
so Detroit it is, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. From what I understand, they maybe stuck a little too close to Akiva Goldsman's script, and I've had a copy of that script for like over a year, and I cannot bring myself to read it. I just can't. And I don't know. I've heard some things. I've heard that a certain very handsome and charming leading man did not get along with the director at all, despite the fact that they're both 2 of the nicest people on the planet. That they kind of hate each other, and so that may be part of it. I don't know.
But here's another question though. Like, is this a movie where, like, Jeff, I think you have very fond memories of the book, right? So. And you were worried that seeing the movie would like ruin your perception of the book in some way, like would taint it somehow. Has that ever happened?
It's been so long. It's been so long since I read the books that I meant to reread them before this movie came out, but I just never got around to it. And I don't want to have the imagery of this movie supplant the imagery in my head of the books.
Has that ever happened to you guys where you'll watch something and it makes you retroactively question whether the earlier things were actually good? I think for me, the couple times that's happened recently is Jason Bourne, which made me wonder, like, were those first 3 films any good?
No, they're still good.
I know this is very topical, Britt. And then the other thing is Jurassic World. Made me wonder, like so much of the formula of the first 3 films was in that movie, and I was wondering, like, was Jurassic World really one of the best movies of all time?
I feel like that's a road to like failure, right, and heartbreak, because you have your feelings. You've already had that experience of seeing the original thing, and maybe something later does something that makes you reconsider that. But that's the fault of the new thing, not the fault of the old thing, right?
I would say this happened with me. I mean, this was how I came to hate Johnny Depp. I don't know that it was any one movie, maybe, but it was like a process over time. And then I got to the point that I hated him so much that I was like, but was he ever actually good, or was he always just like a collection of hats?
Yeah.
Right.
A collection of hats.
And you know what?
Almost as if he's the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, no, he really is. I mean, I can't wait till he plays the Invisible Man, like the role that was made for him, where he literally is a walking hat. He's just a walking disguise. But it's like he's so god awful. And like, honestly, looking back at his older stuff, like even the movies that you would call good, like he's not the best thing about them.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of the worst, and he's also a horrible human being, and I think we should all stop giving him money to be in things.
Well, I mean, really, what happened to him was Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, like, that movie was so wildly successful, and then the next 3 movies were also wildly successful. It basically gave him a blank check to do whatever he wanted. So,
including beating up women, yay!
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Anyway.
I don't think you should cheer for that.
It was sarcasm. Okay, so you don't lie, and you are not familiar with sarcasm. How else do you disappoint me?
I'm like that. I like the characters that aren't Ricky Gervais in that Ricky Gervais movie with a Invention of Lying. Anyway.
All right, guys. Detroit next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the official podcast of SlashFilm.com. We're out.